Hey everyone, this is Tyler from Smash and Grab Comics. We are going to try something new tonight because I am now flying solo. So if you're hearing this on the podcast, there is now a video component on our YouTube page. So go out to Smash and Grab Comics YouTube page, check us out, see how you like the video, leave a comment, definitely like and subscribe. That helps us out a ton. All right, let's get started with this week's comics that I'm going to review. First up, Spider-Man, Spider's Shadow. This baby was put out by Chip Zdarsky, Pascal Ferry, Matt Hollingsworth on Marvel Comics. This is a what if. Let me see if I can get this in the camera. If you can see that little what if with the question mark, that's their new line of what if comics. If you remember that series, that was awesome. Second up, let's get this out of the camera. What the heck? How professional is this show? Come on. Excalibur number 22 will be covering, it looks like, poor Captain Britain, a.k.a. Psylocke, a.k.a. Braddock. She is in the Gallows, it looks like. I'm not sure what's going on there, where she's in the stocks. Not Gallows, the stocks. Way of X number 4. I really love this comic. If you have been following Simon Spurrier's X-Men, this is the one to check out. As you can see, Nightcrawler's battling Xavier and his son over here. So it's going to be a good issue. Sinister War number 1. This is everything that Amazing Spider-Man has been leading up to. And it is not Mr. Sinister. It is the Sinister Six. So, last up then for X-Men stuff, we're going to do X-Corp number 3. Love these covers. And, of course, Bunny Mask number 2. We had to throw in an independent in there. So anyway, guys, let's get started. All right. Spider's Shadow number 1. If we remember from the last few issues, Spider-Man has let the Venom costume take control, right? It's what if Peter had never let go of the Venom costume. They did this before in an early issue of What If, but this is a totally different retelling. This is much darker. Peter kills in these issues, which is kind of crazy. It's very dark. Definitely worth checking out, though. I really like what's going on in the fact that Peter can't control himself. And so right off the bat, get a little synopsis here at the beginning. But right off the bat, you get a little catch of Peter naked here. Now, he is probably wearing underwear. This is Marvel after all. But Peter's putting back on his costume. He's finally got rid of the symbiote, but now he's got to go out and find it. As it turns out, Mary Jane wants to help out too. She doesn't want to leave Peter all by himself. But as you can see in the background there, the Baxter building is covered in the symbiote. As it turns out, none of the Fantastic Four are in there. Well, Johnny Reed and Sue Storm are not, along with Captain America and Iron Man. Now, this is a really cool scene where they chew Peter out for basically bringing this thing to Earth. Johnny does not want anything to do with Peter at all. Just a heads up, this is a review show, so there will be spoilers. She-Hulk is there ready to break into the Baxter building, but in the end, it's just Peter that goes in, and right behind him follows Mary Jane, and then the Human Torch. Neither one of them want to be left out. As soon as they get in there, they notice, though, that there are some humans that have been hooked up to the symbiote control system. If you look at like this connecting tissue here. We find out, though, that the Human Torch is rushing up the elevator shaft towards Reed, and Peter is making his way up there on the wall, but they run into Ben Grimm. Ben has been subjected to the Venom thing as well, the Venom symbiote, and he is just crushing Peter until Peter goes, you know what? I don't have to hold back with Ben. This fucker can take it. So Peter just unloads on Ben, as you can see. No pulling punches. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we finally get to see what Reed Richards looks like with the Venom symbiote. And Johnny is trying to make a confrontation here with Venom Reed Venom. I don't know what you'd call him. But this particular Venom has got a suit on that blocks himself from fire. And in the midst of this melee, he releases all of his spawn out into New York City. This is going to be pretty cool. I bet this is going to be the what if version of Carnage, Phage, Scream, all of those guys. Peter can't get up. Peter's been hurt on his way up there, but he hears a gunshot, and it's Mary Jane, and basically she's defending herself because the symbiotes all got out of the building, and they've infected everyone on the outside, which I didn't realize Warren Worthington was here. I thought it was just Captain America and Iron Man and She-Hulk, but there's more outside now. And that is the end of the issue. We are left with one issue, maybe two left to find out what happens to the rest of the Marvel team in Spider-Man Spider's Shadow. All right, you guys, let's talk about Excalibur. On the cover, we see that Captain Britain, Betsy Braddock, has been put into the stocks by Merlin, it looks like. And as we open up this issue, we find Beast on, it looks like Mars, but I believe it is actually Otherworld. So he's collecting samples, and as you can see here, Beast is being watched via telescope by somebody. They hear the click of the gun before it goes off. Gambit is about to get shot here. So if we check this out, this is really cool, where she shoots and that bullet changes direction mid-air and comes right at Gambit's face and is stopped at the last second. But her and her riders come up to meet the X-Men and kind of demand to know, what are you doing? She is Sheriff Whitechapel. And basically she warns them that their kind is not very welcome in Otherworld right now. And we'll find out here in a page that basically during the Hellfire Gala, the UK pulled out of their agreement to support Krakoa. And at some point, Pete Wisdom was killed. And so here he's being reborn and explained to that they can never go back home to the UK. I'm just going to read this blurb. I love these interface pages. They show who's on the team at this point. You remember back in the old days where they used to have all of the characters on the team right up here? Now the X-Men comics are kind of doing it this way. And after the Hellfire Gala, where the UK officially departed from their agreement with Krakoa, Rogue was elected to join the X-Men, and Pete Wisdom was murdered by an anti-mutant coven. Excalibur has a lot to do, and almost no one is happy about it. In this issue, you guys, we've got Captain Britain, we've got Gambit, Jubilee, Richter, Megan Braddock, Pete Wisdom, and Saturnine. Pretty cool team for Excalibur trying to get into Otherworld. Well, they're in Otherworld. Basically, Merlin is not happy with the new ruling of Otherworld. He was basically Jamie Braddock's champion for the longest time, and he did whatever he wanted. But now he's forming a coup now that Saturnine and this Captain Britain are now in charge. And so they need to figure out what's going on with Merlin, what changed, why is he against them? And then we jump over here to another Braddock who is meditating. I'm not quite sure. They don't really explain what he's doing here on this Braddock Isle. It's literally called Braddock Isle, just off the coast of England. But we find out in a little bit. I'm just going to read here this thing from a couple of the New Mutants, Shan and Danny. More recent intel. Hey, Excalibur, here's what we remember from our trip to Merlin's Tower. There's a really messy map Danny scribbled on the back of this. She says, don't show anyone else. It looks really terrible. You could tell that these guys are a little bit younger because the New Mutants currently have to basically teach new mutants how to use their powers, kind of like the X-Men did back in the old days, back in the 60s. Well, now that seems to be the New Mutants' job, but some of these characters are still pretty immature themselves. Anyway, it's pretty old-fashioned in there. There are no doors and locks. There are doors and locks and stuff, but nothing we couldn't get our way past. It's like a castle. It seems like almost everything is made of iron, which makes sense. It's a prison for fairies, and they're hurt by iron. So if you're not a fairy, it's uncomfortable, but not deadly. But then again, things were really easy for us in there. Danny especially had some wild stuff with her powers. She freaked out a ton of the Roma Regina Fae. I'll tell you about it later. People seemed generally freaked out by mutants, but not out to get us. Merlin thought we were kind of a curiosity, but I really didn't care if he was nice to us or not. He had a ton of prisoners. Please, go free them. We'll come with you if you need us. They're suffering. Again, I'm sorry we didn't wait for Excalibur. We probably should have listened to Richter. I get that you want a chance to escort people in and out of Otherworld safely, and I totally understand why. It was really intense in there. Hope this helps, Cheyenne and Danny. So yeah, we got a little bit of involvement from those two, from the New Mutants, that with their experience with Merlin's Castle. And if we look at Merlin's Castle here in the distance, it really reminds me of Lord of the Rings. And in a little bit, you'll really see what I'm saying and agree there. So basically, our team makes its way into the castle by Gambit throwing one of his cards that he seems to have ripped off from Saturnine. Looks like she had some tarot cards on her or something to that nature. Basically, he gets the drawbridge to go up, and in they get to walk, where they're immediately come across a well that is making noise. And Merlin informs them that they are former witch breed mutants that he's captured, that are to be executed. The Excalibur team, I call them X-Men, but the Excalibur team seems to make their way down, and they fall down the shaft of the whole tower, and as you can see, boom, 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 boom. You see what I mean, though, about Lord of the Rings? I mean, this looks like the crappy wizard in Lord of the Rings. Not crappy as in skill, but as in temperament. They find this really weird old train below Merlin's castle, which is reminiscent of like a steampunk kind of vibe to it, which is pretty cool. And then we jump back over to the other Braddock. This might be Brian Braddock. And he is rebirthing a team. He has asked Egg for 4 embryos that have their full backup installed in them. And when these people are reborn, it's really nice that they did this, because I didn't know who these people were, but they were actually agents of Strike. And he has rebirthed them, and I believe he's going to try to get Otherworld back. Tom Lennox, codenamed Gast. Allison Double, that's Albedo, I don't know. Kevin Milhern, Xanth. Vicky Reppian is Rubedo. Interesting code names. And then one last thing, we see Merlin pull a cloth off of a cage, and he touches the prisoner. He says, "I am Merlin. Do you remember now?" And the guy says, "Yes." Now, before I reveal who it is, it's a major spoiler, so stop now if you don't want to be spoiled. But then remember who you are. I am Arthur. So King Arthur has been kept in a bubble below Merlin's castle, I guess. Not a bubble, but a cage below Merlin's castle. We'll check out this page here. We got Way of X next, you guys. So let's get into it. Okay, guys, let's talk about Way of X, number 4. This is where Nightcrawler is still trying to establish his religion, and he's looking at the Krakoan law number 2, kill no man. And in this issue, Legion and Xavier come into play as to how this is going to work out. And right off the bat, we get this first look at Arakko, aka Mars. Mars has been terraformed by Arakko. by Omega mutants for the people of Arakko. Excuse me. And right at the beginning, we get this story that Legion and Nightcrawler are listening to, and it really seems like this is the book of Genesis, except when we look at them, the beings are purple. We find out that the character known as Lost, who recently appeared in Excalibur, in Way of X, she's been alive forever, but her mutation is going crazy, and she's super stretched out. She can control gravity. And so here we have Nightcrawler and Legion questioning her, trying to find out more about her. They brought her to Mars because on Earth she was pretty much making everyone sick by the way she affected gravity. As you can see, I love the way they draw her body here. It's really cool. So they have a little bit differing views on how to deal with her power when Legion points out, what are we going to do when dealing with that? And it's a giant volcano behind them. Turns out that this volcano has been going nonstop since Mars has been terraformed. And through the Krakoan gate steps Soraya. Nightcrawler says, what are you doing here? And she explains that she's here to affect the tides because when they reformed Mars, the moon or the moons of Mars were too little to affect any water. And she said, it's not the water. And it turns out it's a dust storm. And so she's there to help control it. In the meantime, Legion disappears and he says he's got an appointment to keep. We'll find more about that later. And then so does Nightcrawler. He goes through a gate and says, so do I. On the next page here, we've got a Kill No Man. And this is a, one of those data pages. And I love in these books where they show us who's in the book. So we've got Nightcrawler, Legion. Lost is that girl from Africa from the beginning. Good Lord, I'm tipping over all my stuff today. Dust happens to be the name of Soraya. That's her code name. Gorgon, who we'll see in a minute here, he is he has the power to turn people to stone when he looks at them. Fabian Cortez can affect people's X gene. Professor X, we all know him. And Quan Yin Zorn and Shen Zorn, I don't know what their powers are, but they are basically there to keep what's-his-face in check. Legion. Okay. Mutant kind has a new home, but the paradise of Krakoa is secretly spiraling into anarchy and horror. To avoid its collapse, Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, is aiming to unite all mutants in a shared sense of purpose. To this end, he's been interrogating the 3 laws of Krakoa, hoping to find a basis of a new culture. Now he turns to the second law, kill no man. But there's a devil loose in Eden, Onslaught. A godlike psychic entity squirms through the minds of mutants, hastening the very collapse Nightcrawler feels. With his powerful ally Legion, Nightcrawler witnessed a manifestation of this adversary during a confrontation between Fabian Cortez and a recently arrived mutant known as Lost. He has questions. So just to back this up a little bit, Fabian Cortez came into contact with Lost, had some kind of confrontation with her, and a physical manifestation of Onslaught appeared. Now, prior to this, it had just been this creepy feeling in people's thoughts that Xavier believed was Legion himself. So on these 2 pages, basically what's happening is that Gorgon is suffering. He's on the ground. His psychic powers are going crazy. And we find out that Fabian Cortez here has been messing with his powers. Basically, to get the humans to get Gorgon to take off his mask and turn them all to stone. And in the meantime, he's killed no humans. He's killed no man. The Nightcrawler wants to put a stop to that because Gorgon is being manipulated by Fabian, and Nightcrawler feels that would be his fault then if those humans died. I'm going to read you this field notes from Dr. Nemesis. If you remember, Dr. Nemesis was that guy earlier in the series with all the fungus growing on his head. He's a really weird dude, but he's really into psychedelics and stuff. So let's check out what he thinks of Fabian Cortez. Following the rules of a violent confrontation, I was tasked by Nightcrawler to perform a field analysis of a notorious Krakoan redacted. During an exchange among one Fabian Cortez, the aforementioned redacted, and a gravity manipulator known as Lost, some manner of psychic entity manifested. Nightcrawler was circumspect about its identity, but speculated Cortez might have triggered its appearance using his mutant abilities. Since I remain hopeful that the Holy Blue Simpleton will put in a good word with the Council, viz., my proposed fungus testing program agreed to help him. Fabian Cortez is a male, redacted, in good physical condition, whose recent resurrection shell bears the telomerase profile of an individual in his early 30s. His mutation manifests as a localized field of bioresonant energies, upon which he exerts a degree of X-gene expressions of his fellow mutants. I skipped a line. Degree of control. Its practical effects are to stimulate or sedate the X-gene expressions of his fellow mutants. He is, in the vernacular of the mob, a booster. Notwithstanding that ginger ponytail, he would appear to be at sound mental faculty. From a psychiatric perspective, things become more complex. His habitual brand of unearned entitlement would tend to mark him as a redacted of rare privilege in sapient circles. Wealthy, highly educated, parentally indulged, but it can't be denied that his dedication to the cause of mutant primacy is rapidly pronounced. The spoiled brat and the downtrodden martyr, two quite contradictory societal characters. Irrespective of which is the real him, the man is as conflicted as he is dangerous. In fact, I'd wager he's deadlier as an unemployed yuppie slouching about the island, muttering into his bespoke leatherette hobo gloves, than he ever was as an overly pocketed beefcake with a foolish large gun and a helmet perm. Did he trigger the episode with Lost? I don't know. I don't care. The more I observe him, the more my skin crawled. So I gave up and went home to regene some psychedelics and eat some expensive chocolate. Sometimes a redacted is just a redacted. So basically, Dr. Nemesis feels that this guy could have triggered the manifestation, but there's something about him that creeps him out, and he doesn't want to deal with him anymore. Now, we find out where Fabian Cortez went to. Legion, when he left Nightcrawler on Mars. He's meeting Xavier in this lounge, and each side has brought with them their own team of mutants to kind of look after them. During this confrontation, or I should say sit down, Legion asks for a mutant Krakoa Gate seed, which Xavier gives him, no problem. And then we find out that the other two mutants along with Legion that are here, they are here to make sure Legion stays in control of his powers. If he starts to lose control, they will vaporize him. As you can, by Legion's request. As you can see, Xavier looks terrified at this prospect. So in these red panels, everybody's listening in to the psychic conversation. Everybody can hear everything. And Xavier really wants to know who is tormenting the island. And basically, Legion doesn't want to tell him. And he will take care of it. He says that the people of Krakoa are not your responsibility. They are their own responsibility. And Xavier says, if you won't tell me, I'll take it. And he touches Legion's head, at which time all hell breaks loose and everybody opens fire on everybody. In the end, though, it looks like Legion's two goons take care of everybody, because as you can see here, they are all skeletons and there is nothing left of the facility. So it's a funny line here at the end. Better tell the resurrection crew to cancel their dinner plans. So he realizes shit went off and it shouldn't have. Jump back to Gorgon and what's happening in New York City. He rips off his mask and he starts crying. And Nightcrawler freaks out because he thinks he's going to turn everyone to stone. It turns out, though, that Fabian is holding back the actual Gorgon thing of turning everyone to stone. And he's about to let Gorgon do it when Nightcrawler comes up with a plan. He basically teleports himself into the ice cream truck so that the crowd will start laughing and they will forget about hating the mutant. So what that does is allow Gorgon to relax a little bit. He's not feeling the hate. He puts his mask back on, and he's basically freed of that horrible, hateful feeling that he was getting. At which time Nightcrawler grabs him, and Fabian's like, don't take me to the council. They'll throw me in the hole with Sabretooth. But he doesn't. He's going to give him a punishment more fitting. And to have a meaningful conversation is what he says. So we jump back over to Lost, who is on Mars, and in pops Legion along with his two flunkies, and I believe they're on Mars. And it might be Earth. It might be from this page. Basically, his Krakoan gate, he's building a temple. He wants a temple that nobody can come in that isn't allowed to come in, right? So they're hoping to keep out Onslaught, this character we've only seen once. He's hoping to keep Onslaught out so that the mutants can talk without being overheard. They don't know at this point who Onslaught has affected. So guys, that is the end of Way of X number 4. As you can see, we will be moving into X-Corp number 3 next here. All right, so I'm sorry if you guys can hear the lawnmower outside. My neighbor seems to think this is an opportune time for mowing his lawn. So we are going to talk about X-Corp number 3. If you don't know what X-Corp is, Warren Worthington, Monet, and I believe Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man, are part of the board of directors, and they're filling the rest of the spaces. And this is going to be a huge launch for them. They've decided that they're going to make a scene into the communications end of things, specifically broadband communications. This opens up with a little background about who Jamie Madrox is, and it takes us through his powers working so that when he absorbs his multiple people, he comes back with all of their memories. When he absorbs them, he gains all of their knowledge. And so then it shows this diagram here of how in his lab he can pretty much do everything. And then they've got this nice workflow chart here for him. Okay, so in this book, reading our handy dandy little blurb, we've got Penance, not sure who she is, Angel, Trinary, Multiple Man, Sarah St. John, and Wind Dancer. I'm going to read you the team synergy here. When the X-Corp board member, with the X-Corp board almost completely filled, it's time for Monet and Angel to turn their attentions outward to their competitors. With Noble S Pharmaceuticals, I think that's how it's pronounced, Noble S Pharmaceuticals hiring of Sarah St. John, and mutant consultants Fenris, a.k.a. Andreas and Andrea von Strucker, the race is on to perfect and unveil ionospheric technology to the world and claim their status as a technological titan. Now is the time for X-Corp to prove their mettle. That is, if they can get their board members to act cohesively for once. Okay, so basically during the Hellfire Gala, we did see Sarah St. Croix there at the party with Fenris, a.k.a. the Struckers, and they were basically sneaking around. And so we got this press release announcement from X-Corp. Okay, press release for immediate release at 5 p.m. to coincide with the activation of the ionospheric bandwidth generator. If you can imagine what's going on here, like this is worldwide bandwidth. You could get on the net from pretty much anywhere with this kind of technology. X-Corp Telecom was introduced. Oh, skipped a paragraph. The X-Corp, under the recent X-Corp brand, expand into the world of telecommunications with the announcement of an expanded portfolio. Now, X-Corp Pharma is but one branch of Krakoan's tech company's impressive offerings. X-Corp Telecom was introduced at the Technology Talks 10 main stage by X-Corp CXOs Warren Worthington and Monet St. Croix. What followed was a truly impressive virtual presentation that functioned both as a demonstration of X-Corp's technology and an incredible display of what this new telecom offering can provide. How does it work? Most of our rapid communications on Earth take place in the ionosphere, where the X-Corp HQ typically makes its home. It's able to stabilize the ionosphere around the HQ and charge it with a massive amount of energy, increasing bandwidths and letting us transfer massive amounts of data in mere seconds. And we want to share that with you. It's not just our headquarters, it's your headquarters, for bandwidth and clear communications like you've never seen. So this is kind of an ad, I guess, for X-Corp. We've revolutionized the way you care for one another with pharmaceuticals. Let us revolutionize the way you talk to each other. Welcome to X-Corp Telecom, another part of the simply superior X-Corp family. Now, you know, we've always got this, like, I'm better than you vibe from Warren Worthington in the past, but this really takes the cake. I mean, this is just flat out telling you, like, everything about you sucks and everything about us is awesome. Okay, so when we start off, we're at this, like, this tech conference for telecommunications, and Warren is wandering around this conference along with a couple other mutants who are kind of obsessed, you could say, with St. Croix, with Monet. But these other two mutants, Trinary and Sophia, were invited to come along next. And Warren talked Monet into going to this conference with these girls, into this panel for women. And at this is where... well, it skips here back to Jamie, the Multiple Man, and this is where we find out that he's using Vulcan, Bishop, Neil Shars, and Sunspot because of their unique ability to harness and manipulate solar energy. So basically, it's kind of the rebirth thing, but in this case, they're going to harness energy that is going to be put into the ionosphere that's needed to kick off this telecommunications thing that they're all trying to do. So they're all hooked up to this machine. It's kind of like their arms are stuck in it and they're projecting their power somehow. In the middle of it, though, Jamie gets a call from his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure which she is, where she's trying to get him to come home because their baby is going to start walking at any minute. And she hangs up with him angrily because he says he's not coming. So instead, he sends one of his dupes to go home instead. And, the dupe goes home and walks with the baby and does all the fun stuff. In the meantime, we get over to St. Croix, and she's down here with, chatting away with, let's see, who is this lady? St. John. So this is Sarah St. John, who was hired basically as the Noble-esque competitor to X-Corp. So they're just having this meeting basically because she wants to know why their information was being gone through by the Struckers. Their Fenris is what they're known as collectively. And she tries to use her psychic ability on Sarah because she's not getting what she's looking for. Because of that, she doesn't make it through because she's got a psychic shield on her head there. We can see that. All right, jumping back to the two, they call them interns in this, but they're just, other mutants that are not as important. So Monet wasn't at the talk like they were, and they were expecting to sit with her. But they can tell that something is wrong because of the technology. The technology factor that one of them has, and she can tell that something's wrong with her cell phone or something. I don't know. This issue was kind of boring. But anyway, back to Jamie Madrox. He wants to know what's going wrong, and basically they can't contain the power. They've created so much power they can't contain it, and there needed to have been a vent built in. And it turns out one of the dupes did say, hey, I built the vent. You just got to open it, dumbass. So Jamie puts this call out to all of his dupes. The one closest to it should open it. It turns out that the dupe that's closest to it is the one that went to go visit his family for him. Now, let's remember that they have not had a chance to be reabsorbed into the multiple man's psyche, so he doesn't know any of the information that the dupe would have got while playing with his son, which he desperately wanted him to bring back to him. So during the time, here we go with the dupe that went home for him is rushing to let the vent out. We can see that the red sirens are going off. The guy, Vulcan, has taken the majority of the hit of all of this excess energy. And we have onlookers from the street that can tell that something's going on, and then it goes back to normal. By the time that Jamie is able to get and free the X-Men that were harnessing the power, they have found that the duplicate was disintegrated during the attempt to open the gate. Then we cut to Warren. He's at the supposed to be the unveiling of this major thing, only to discover that Monet hasn't shown up. We don't know what's happened to Monet yet. We cut to Monet on some security footage. We show what happens when she was given when she tried to read St. John's mind. She got hit with that block. She immediately came out with her darker side and started chasing St. John. Warren has no idea what's going on, why this is happening, but St. Croix is explaining to St. John that she's holding herself back from attacking her because she wants this to be civilized. She wants to know why she's working with Fenris. And basically St. John said, I can work with whoever I want to. It's none of your business. And that doesn't sit too well with St. Croix. She is trying to tell her, anybody else but these two. In the end, though, we don't know what happens, because as soon as the two quote-unquote interns make it to St. John's conference room where she was hiding out with St. Croix, there's been a hole blasted in the ceiling, and we don't know where she went. All right, so when we cut back to the grand opening here of Warren's major presentation, where he's going to unveil the new communications, when he says the magic words for everybody to look up in the sky, nothing happens. And we can see in the last panel here that Jamie is looking very distraught. The dupe that was going to bring him back information about his son was killed, and the power surge that was needed to power up this ionospheric communication systems failed. But yeah, great book though. I really enjoyed it. There's a 2-page multiple sabotage page. It's an X-Corp bonus story. That was pretty cool. I mean, nothing really to talk about, but definitely worth checking out. Let's see what's in the back here about looking at. Next is going to be the Marauders, New Mutants, next week. So look forward to that. And then next up for us is going to be the Sinister War. So we are moving on to Sinister War #1. Just taking a look at this cover. This is a really thick issue, you guys, coming in at $4.99. Not too expensive for being a larger issue, but I really like this cover. It's really cool. I like the black line down the middle. And it's got tons of Spider-Man villains on the cover. Mark Bagley has always been one of my favorite Spider-Man artists, so this was really fun to see this. So here we see a intro of Mephisto and Doctor Strange, and basically Strange is confronting him about a deal that was made. Okay, and then we're going to jump right into the red carpet. Peter is escorting Mary Jane on the opening of her new movie that she made with Mysterio. Now, if you've been following Spider-Man, Mary Jane's been in Los Angeles filming a movie, and we find out in this issue that it's a movie about Mysterio, directed by Mysterio. She hasn't told Peter anything about the director being Mysterio, though. She's keeping some of that to herself. But when we do a little, montage as Peter's reflecting back on Mary Jane and how resourceful she is, Peter gets introduced to the director, Cage McKnight. Who happens to be Mysterio, but Peter doesn't know it. He drags Mary Jane away for some smiling and handshaking and stuff like that. Peter, who has been obviously thinking of proposing, is talking about giving Mary Jane a big surprise tonight. After the premiere, when the lights come up, Peter wants to propose to her, which is a cool idea. Now, this is funny because we have been expecting the Sinister Six to come back, but what we have right here is the Savage Six, which is kind of, the rinky-dink rundown version. But they plan on busting into this release party only because Mysterio made them look bad in the movie. In my opinion, this is a pretty cheesy thing. I mean, who the hell cares? As far as motivations go, this one I didn't buy it. But anyway, Carly Cooper's been in jail with Harry Osborn, making her believe that he's not kindred. But only to find out, though, that, let me see if it's back here in the bottom panel, hard to see it on camera, that Harry's dead. He's not there. He's actually kindred over here. And he's making his way as well to the party. So right before the movie starts is a giant boom. Peter, of course, gets the spider sense, makes his way to a hiding spot where he can get his costume on, and it's the Savage Six. So they tear up the party looking for Mary Jane. Well, they're actually looking for Mysterio, but then Peter gets in a tussle with the tarantula, and he makes a good point. He says, listen, dude, what are you doing? We've never even fought that much, And so he goes, you're right. I'll give you over to someone you have had a history with. And Peter gets just bombarded by the rhino. Anywho, so the Vulture gets a hold of Mary Jane, and Peter's being held back by the Scorpion. Nobody really understanding what's going on, but Cage here is about to be exposed as Mysterio. Peter is pretty disgusted, not only with Mysterio, but with Mary Jane in a second when he realizes that she knew the whole time. So the Vulture here is trying to get, his due. He's giving Mysterio his comeuppance for having made him look like an idiot in the film. In comes the actual Sinister Six. This is a really cool spread here. They are here for Mary Jane. They are here, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, that they are here to collect Mary Jane for Mephisto. He's collecting on a debt that, if you remember way back in the early 2000s, I think, he erased the fact that Mary Jane and Peter were ever married. And so my guess at this point is that he's going to take Mary Jane's soul because Peter's about to renege on the deal. He's about to propose. Now, this is all speculation. This is just what I think. The Sinister Six clean up. Can't believe that Octavius is back. I think that's super cool. And the minute they have Mary Jane, I'm going to fix this. That is no good. Those listening and not watching, my black background just fell down. But anyway, once they have Mary Jane, though, and they disappear with her, everything changes. Peter wakes up on the sidewalk, everything. It's like, to me, this was reminiscent of reality just changed, right? Because she is going to be in the care of Mephisto soon, I am guessing. Here we see Kindred. He basically is not going away. Harry has got a huge hard-on for Peter, and it's just really annoying. But of course, Mysterio is still around playing games with Harry in this mansion where basically every villain Peter has ever fought, pretty close, every villain available right now, bursts in on him. And then the scene cuts, so we don't know what happens to Peter. It cuts back to Mephisto and Doctor Strange finishing their conversation. And it's still pretty ambiguous as to whether or not they're talking about Peter and Mary Jane's deal with him, that their marriage never ended. And I believe that deal was to save Aunt May's life. So, that was an awesome book. Can't wait to check out Sinister War number 2. Last up today, you guys, is Bunny Mask. So I made a decision. I'm going to skip Bunny Mask for this week. As I was preparing to read it, I discovered that I cannot remember at all what happened in issue number 1. So I'm going to go back, reread that one, read number 2, and then when number 3 comes out, I will definitely cover that on this show. So, guys, for Smash and Grab Comics, this is Tyler. Hope you guys had a great time watching me go through my comic books. I know this is a different format for those listening on YouTube right now, or on a podcast right now, but I am down to just myself. TR is no longer with the show, and so I wanted to, if he listens to this, I wanted to thank him for all of his help over the last year and a half. JP as well. He was my first co-host. Wanted to thank him for all of his help, but currently, for the time being, it's going to just be the Time Man. So, I want to thank our sponsor, Rainbow Comics, Cards, and Collectibles. They have anything and everything you would want in nerd culture. 3310 South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and 1501 Pine Lake Road in Suite 17, Lincoln, Nebraska. All right, guys, one more plug for me. I have a new YouTube channel that I would really love it if you guys went and checked out. It's called Time Man Unboxing, and this channel is just me unboxing blind box toys. Check it out. It's really fun. I have a good time. But until next time, guys, have a good one. Later.